लगता है कि वापस जाओगी तुम कभी वहाँ पे?
हाँ।
मन करता है वापस जाने का?
हाँ।
क्या कहते हैं मम्मी पापा, क्या कहते हैं कि वापस जा पाओगी वहाँ पे?
नहीं।
क्या कहते हैं, कभी नहीं जाएंगे वहाँ?
ना।
तो फिर क्या कहते हैं, कहाँ रहेंगे?
यही।
तो यहाँ क्या करेंगे?
पता नहीं।
नमस्ते, स्वागत है आपका इंडिया दिस वीक के नए एपिसोड में और मैं हूं आपकी को-होस्ट आमना अंसारी।
Hi, this is Khalid Beg, and welcome to yet another episode of India This Week. This week, we had hundreds of requests from our readers, from our viewers, to talk about the movie, which is the talk of the town, talk of the city, talk of the country, and talk of the world. You must be living under a cave if your Facebook, Twitter is not flooded with it, if the news channel you start isn't talking about it, if your Kashmiri Pandit friends are not talking about it. We're talking about the one and only Kashmir Files, which is now clearly turning into be a big blockbuster, but more than that, a movie which is changing discussions about a tragedy which was never spoken about. I would like to introduce our panelists. First of all, please allow me to introduce Mr. Surinder Kaul. Here is a man who the director of the movie on air has said is the chief architect of Kashmir Files, the man behind it, the idea with the years of dedication, unrelenting perseverance, who ensured that this movie gets made.
जब ये हमने फिल्म शुरू की थी तो मैंने सुरिंदर कॉल किए हैं डॉक्टर साहब इस फिल्म के आर्किटेक्ट हैं एक्चुअली.
We have Ieshan, Vinay, Misri, another Kashmiri Pandit, and we have Namrata, Wakhloo. You know her as the Srinagar girl, someone who keeps on bringing out the beautiful landscapes of Kashmir to everyone. So welcome everyone. We'll straight away get down to the man of the moment. We'll start off with Mr. Surinder Kaul. Mr. Surinder Kaul, I spoke to you even offline, and you spoke about how this idea was there with you, how you wanted to tell the story of your people, of the ethnic cleansing, which you said was never discussed, and the entire nation had left you down. Could you tell us how this started? What is the efforts you put, and how you met Vivek Agnihotri, and how this all took place?
Thank you so much, Khalid and Amana, for inviting me in your very popular YouTube show. And actually, my wife follows you, and you all are doing an awesome job. That's really very, very good. And I commend you for doing all this. So before I dwell into the Kashmir Files, let me use a disclaimer, okay? As we all Kashmiris, those who know about Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, by whatever nomenclature you want to call, and for that matter, even Kashmiri Muslims. Kashmir has been the land of Sufis and Rishis. It was called the fountainhead of the civilization. So my disclaimer is we respect all religions, whether it is Islam, whether it is Christianity, whether it is Jainism, Hinduism, you name it. So with that disclaimer, I would also like to share with you the tenets of our community that has been, and I talk about it on a daily basis wherever I get a chance. And pardon me if I repeat myself, you might have heard it, but I do emphasize on this, that this is the community whose tenets have been universal brotherhood, benevolence, caring and sharing, compassion, and pursuit of knowledge. And with that disclaimer, I will just share about the genesis of the Kashmir Files. As we all know that what happened in 1989, 1990s and beyond, it was a blot on humanity. It was definitely a big blot on humanity. Let us forget about the previous histories of Kashmir, and I know the Kashmir has been having lots of things for last several centuries. We are one civilization, we are one people. And because of the historic situations or invasions or circumstances, things changed in our spiritual Kashmir. But nevertheless, we have had good memories living with the Muslims. And it will be very unfair to say that, to castigate the whole community for whatever post-1990 happened. But we do have our grievances. We do have, because, the coexistence, the onus of coexistence will always lie with the majority community, whether in any country, whether it is India. India is diverse. It has a lot of ethnicities, a lot of languages, lots of religions. So the onus will always remain with the majority community. Now, Jammu and Kashmir has been the only Muslim majority state in India. And we have had good relations by and large. People have been spiritual. I can quote lots and lots of instances about the coexistence that was there, but that was broken down. That broke down because of, I don't want to dwell into it. We all know about it. And this peaceful community became a victim of genocide and ethnic cleansing. And this was a biggest tragedy in the independent India. And now, after that, I have seen, now it has been 32 years that the people have been living in exile in their own country as refugees. So that has been painful. The biggest problem was that nobody knew about it, that this thing happened in Kashmir. What was the perception amongst the people was that there was some law and order issues and maybe they left. That was by and large the concept of what about the Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits. But there was a need to make awareness, not because of intent of spreading hate. So basically what happened there was nobody knew about what happened. And we wanted it to be documented, because not with the intent of spreading hate, but it was an important piece of the history that had to be part of the documentation. So that was the intent. And that's why I had met some more Bollywood directors. I don't want to name them, but they were a little bit, they tried to discourage. They didn't say no, but they had that, okay, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. And but it was in year 2018 that I had a chance meeting with Vivek Agnihotri, who had come to Houston. And in that meeting, at that time, he was trying to unearth some of the very important issues concerning India. So he was talking about urban nexus, and he was talking about Tashkent Files. I don't think Tashkent Files had been released by that time, but these are the sensitive things he was dealing with. So I talked to him and I said that, hey, can you work on this, the exodus, the ethnic cleansing and genocide? So he told me, and I'm telling you for the first time in a very honest conversation. So he said, देखिए डॉक्टर साहब, आप स्मार्ट लगते हैं, आप अच्छी बड़ी अंग्रेजी बोलते हैं, आप मर्सिडीज चलाते हैं, आप लोग सभी गोरे हो, कौन यकीन करेगा आपके साथ जेनोसाइड और एथनिक क्लींजिंग हुआ? एंड आई टोल्ड हिम कि विवेक जी, आपका कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है जेनोसाइड का, कि वो फटे हुए कपड़े, वो स्केलेटन दिख रहा है? Is this the level of is this the level of discourse that you are trying to, what you mean? So I gave back, but I told him that this is what has happened, and this needs to be documented. Anyhow, I told him that we will give you money and let you make a documentary on this. So we talked about it, and he left. And he didn't say no, he didn't say yes. So after about a month, I received a call from him. And he tells me, hey, we discussed about this project. I talked with my wife, Pallavi, and we have decided we'll go for it. But are you going to support it? At that time, Shikara came into after this. I know that Shikara was in the making, And by the time he went all out, that I said, yeah, absolutely, we will support you. You tell us, we will facilitate everything. He said that, I don't need your money. I'm not going to make a documentary. I will make a feature film. It will be in theaters. I said, oh, that's awesome. So that is the seed that was sown in Houston. And then if you have further questions, I can elaborate on them about the logistics, how the testimonies were collected. So I will leave it to you.
नम्रता जी, आपने एज ए केपी ये मूवी भी देखी, कश्मीर फाइल, तो आपके लिए क्या मायने रखता है ये मूवी? ऑल्सो एक सेक्शन है जो बोल रहा है कि ये मूवी एक तरह का प्रोपेगेंडा है और जनरलाइज करता है सारे कश्मीरी मुस्लिम को, तो आप उसके बारे में भी क्या कहना चाहेंगी?
सबसे पहले तो मैं ये बताऊंगी, आई सॉ द मूवी, आई वॉच्ड अ कपल ऑफ डेज बैक, और जाने से पहले मुझे बस एक ही बात की चिंता थी. आई वाज जस्ट वंडरिंग एंड थिंकिंग कि जैसी भी मूवी हो, वेदर इट्स अ हिट और नॉट, पैसे बनाती है नहीं बनाती है, लोग देखने आए कितने आए, आई वाज नॉट वरीड. आई वाज वरीड अबाउट ओनली वन थिंग, कि जो कुछ भी दिखाया जाएगा शुड बी फैक्ट्स. इट शुड बी बेस्ड ऑन रियल हैपनिंग्स, ट्रूथ. इसमें कुछ भी एग्जैजरेटेड नहीं होना चाहिए, कुछ भी गलत नहीं होना चाहिए. And while watching the movie, I was just validating that scene by scene, event by event. I was just running it in my head कि हाँ ये हुआ था. I was just stick mark के, because मुझे सब पता था. Nothing came as a surprise to me. काफी लोगों को शायद नहीं पता होगा, मुझे सब पता था. एक एक चीज जो उसमें हुई है is right, is correct. So I left a very satisfied person. I was happy कि now I can face anybody. क्योंकि नॉर्मली मुझे पता होता है ना कि क्या होना है. पीपल विल ट्राई चैलेंजिंग एंड दे विल से नहीं ये है, कंट्रोवर्सी बनाएंगे. सो इन माय हार्ट आई न्यू कि जो कुछ था वो सही था, कुछ एग्जैजरेटेड भी नहीं था, बिल्कुल करेक्ट था. So that way I'm very happy with the movie, the content. Yes, there could be improvements. It was a low budget film, तो शायद technicalities, casting or other, editing, ये सब पे और focus किया जा सकता था, but that's not of my concern, honestly. About the propaganda thing, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it should be called propaganda at all. And I don't see how the entire Muslim community, the Kashmiri Muslim community, is getting. I don't see that. It's very specifically talking about different groups of people, different, who came together into a nexus. It was the politicians. It was even some parts of bureaucracy was there, and of course Pakistan sponsored the entire thing. So all these 3-4 people, they came into a nexus and they drove the whole agenda. So why should we target and paint the entire KM community with the same brush? It's wrong. I don't think we intend doing that. Just like Surinder Kaulji also said, do you think everybody is every KM is bad and every KP is good, or vice versa? ऐसा तो कभी भी नहीं होता है ना. So I think that's wrong, completely wrong. And
let me add here to, if with your permission, see, when Vivek was going for the movie and it was being scripted, and before the script we had almost 2-3 months of hectic exercise globally. That was to record conversations of victims of first-hand victims of this, who lost their mother, father, sister, brother, and Vivek and Pallavi, they toured all over India where these first-hand victims were there. They toured US, UK, and where people from Germany, Australia, New Zealand, they came. Now, in this process, they collected around 700 testimonials. And the process of collecting these testimonials, I like that both the couple, they could have called them in a hotel and recorded the statements. But they said, no, it is so sensitive a matter. We want to go to their homes so that they are comfortable talking. And we will do a long conversational recordings, like in the war testimonials are being collected with all sensitivity and in their own environment. And that's exactly what they did. They drove from Chicago 100 miles to one of the victims, who I don't want to name, but he drove 100 miles. So that happened in all over US and UK. So I just wanted to share that the sensitivity of the matter and how he dealt with it. Now, the question is about, okay, after we collected this and he was in a script phase, I was involved in every step of this whole process, collecting of testimonials, then scripting. He shared the story with me. But my condition was, I set some couple of preconditions to him. I said, well, I don't want that there should be some bashing of a whole community, and I don't want even bashing of some country also. It should be focused on humanity, about what happened. And, it should not be the binary of Hindu, Muslim, but it should be the binary of truth, the truth and the brutal truth. And I'm very proud that he has avoided, he has not done any bashing, any community bashing. You will not see any even Pakistan bashing this, and the whole focus has remained on the narrative, the separatist narrative. He has bought it very brilliantly, the separatist narrative and the nexus, and the political system failures, certainly the media failures, law and machinery failures, and basically then devolving and focusing on the stories of humanity, the brutal truths, which he has not depicted exactly the way they have, because that would have been much more shocking. So using the cinematic leniency with the audience, so he has avoided that extreme, but he has not compromised with the basic, the way things have happened. So that is, as regards propaganda is concerned, yes, you are right. This primarily showcases the Kashmiri Pandits' angle of what happened with them. There is no doubt about it. Now, it's a fair question that there has been a lot of tragedies with the Muslims also. That's a very pertinent question. But the focus of this movie was to bring out the genocide and ethnic cleansing angle of the minorities. So that was a theme. But he has mentioned in his movie that there has been lots of moderate Muslims who were killed. There were Sikhs who were killed. There were Dogras who were killed. There were Dalits who were killed. So he has just maintained that piece. As regard propaganda is concerned, I don't know what is the definition of a propaganda. This is the truth. And if you call the truth the propaganda, that is where the problem starts. Instead of empathizing, instead of healing, once you say that propaganda, that means that you are not worth a human also. So that is what is my say on that. You can ask me any follow-up questions. I will gladly answer them honestly.
I think it's politically motivated, the propaganda part of it. We know that. I mean, there are vested interests who want to, spread misinformation. So I think we should ignore that and focus on, it's like a wave. It's riding a wave right now, the movie. The number of people who are going on their own, watching, so many groups of friends of mine, families, they're going, watching and coming back like, oh, we didn't know. Hame to pata hi nahi tha. I can show you so many messages that I've got from strangers or acquaintances saying कि आप लोगों के साथ इतना कुछ हुआ और हमें पता ही नहीं था. I have great respect for you. And going forward, we really respect the community much more because we didn't know what all you went through. So it has been an eye opener.
No,
so I can also
add,
share. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to add to Surinderji and Namrata's point. I watched the movie. It's heartbreaking, and it's about what humans can do to fellow humans. There is a clear line where he talks about thousands of moderate Muslims, and we know the figure is 15,000 civilians, right, killed by militants, right? And there is a quote by, there's a tweet by a noted journalist, Ahmed Ali Fayaz, who has covered those 32 years, of conflict. And he said that, genocide is also about any pro-India voice. Obviously, the first targets are KPs, followed by KMs, right? And he spoke about how that also started in '89 with the killing of Farooq Halwai, who was a National Conference ground worker. Now, either as a Muslim,
Awesome, you brought up this point. I 100% agree with
right.
you.
Either
now, Khalid,
you,
I know, you complete your
so
statement.
either you associate with the fact that you were amongst those thousands of Muslims, or if anybody wants to associate the fact that you're talking about religious militants who killed families, Pandit families, and say, oh, that is our generalization. So that is, chor ki dadi mein tinka. You are associating with that. You can associate with the, who died.
Yes.
Right.
Khalid, I agree 100% with you, and I openly, without any ambiguity, I sympathize with your family, and I'm going to tell something for the first time that broke my heart. I'm going to tell you, I have never shared it with anyone except my very close friends, but not to media. Yes, there were Muslims who were killed. If you remember, you must have been too young, but you can check. There were lots of people, the police personnel who were killed. There were lots of politicians who believed in Constitution of India, whether they were from National Conference, whether they were from Congress, whether they are from BJP, they got killed, they got slaughtered, yes. Then there was another angle of misery. And I want to bring through your channel. And don't say that we do not speak about Kashmiri Muslims. It was pain for me. I was literally so saddened. I will tell you, in 1990, we left, we came onto the road. 1991, I finished my MBBS in Medical College, Srinagar. I went in 1991 to district hospital, to Ramban Hospital, in Ramban, In Ramban, I will tell you lots of stories, and you will cry. I also cried. There are teenager Kashmiri Muslim girls, and I had 6 instances who were with her parents. They came to me and they said that these terrorists did this thing with my daughter. Please save me. Please save my honor. Please save my honor. And he put his cap on my feet. And they said, we will do everything, whatever you said. And that elderly person, I got so shocked. And I will tell you, 6 people, it makes me really feel bad about those girls. You may not be knowing about it, but this was happening throughout. They were coming to Ramban because nobody would like to catch them in Kashmir. And the people of Kashmir have been ignoring all these things, taking it lightly, not even speaking about it, and taking it that if we speak, we'll be outcasted from the community. That was the level of things that was going on. But we were helpless. We were helpless. And if I would have spoken this thing, I would have been attacked. Oh no, he's bringing a bad name to our Muhim. He is from RSS. He is from BJP. He is pro-India. That's why he is bringing this thing. But we lacked. So many people became widows, became with this thing. But does Kashmiri Muslim have any idea what was going on? Did they ever try to intervene and do something about it? That was not with whatever happened with us happened. Whatever sacrifices we had to give, we did it. But for you people, for our Kashmiri Muslims, our heart was bleeding too.
I would want to intervene. This became very heavy. First of all, thank you for having me. There is a problem in narrative. The narrative is basically being derived, with the narrative that called this movie propaganda. The narrative is driven that as if it is KP versus Kashmiri Muslims. It is the tragedies seen by Kashmiri Muslims were somehow perpetrated by KPs. But that's a false binary, first of all. that the KPs were never involved in any kind of tragedies that Kashmiri Muslims suffered. So as I agree with Surinder ji, we personally know people who have suffered a lot, who also like Kashmiri Muslims who also have to leave Kashmir because of the same consequences that Kashmiri Pandits have to. So this binary is actually false. Yes, what KPs saw was because of a section of majority community, radicalized section of Kashmir, majority community, but that saying that what Kashmiri Muslims suffered was somehow through the hands of Kashmiri Pandits. So this binary does not exist. KP versus KM binary does not exist in reality. That's purely a narrative, and these people who are saying this movie is a propaganda, see it through that false narrative binary. So that's the issue basically.
Quoting statistics, there is another statistic that the Congress is throwing about, and they've said that there were more than 15,000 Muslims who were killed in the same period in Kashmir. So what about them?
Yes, nobody is denying that. But who killed those? Who killed those Muslims? 15,000 Muslims. Who killed those? Kashmiri Pandits? No. So even the Kashmiri Muslims have been tortured and a victim of this terrorism.
I want to ask you, I mean, Surinder ji and Namrata, they have both lived through those dark hell years where, heaven turned into hell. Blood flew in Jhelum and across everywhere. An entire community got, uprooted. And the other section of community, the civilians who were seen as pro-India, were getting killed, and many other things. Ieshan, but in the movie that we've seen, which is basically a representation of the influential journalists of 90s and later 2000 who shaped up the minds of millions of youth, Barkha Dutt, say in during a recording in the valley, where she justifies this ethnic cleansing by bringing in the class divide, again an artificial class divide, saying that the Pandits were the privileged elites who had monopolized all the jobs, which means taken all the jobs from KMs, and there was sharp economic disparity. If you could tell us, being a student of Kashmir Conflict and having studied in these areas, how wrong is this A factually? How wrong is this 2 morally? And why did people like her play this role?
Today, hapless victims, they were once the privileged elite of the valley. They may have been a minority, but at that time they had monopolized government jobs, plum postings and other such social benefits. In fact, the sharp economic disparity between the Pandits and the poor Muslim majority was one of the earliest reasons for popular discontent in the state.
So I'll talk of facts first. So this policy basically comes from a not very well written piece by a Britisher called Copeland. His name was Copeland. So he has confused. He was writing about the Kashmir society in accordance to the census of 1931, basically. Therein, being an outsider, he did not knew the ethnic division of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And he confused Kashmiri Pandits with the general Hindus. Kashmiri Pandits who were just 4%, he confused them with the general Hindu populace of the state, which was including the Pakistan side of the side. So if we actually go back to that census and look at what was the real quantum of Kashmiri Pandits in the state machinery or administrative services, for every 1,000 posts there were only 305 KP men for every 1,000 posts. So these posts were in accordance to around in total 13 to 12 lakh in total, if I remember correctly. For every 1,000, there were just 305 Kashmiri men. And among 100 women that were employed by the state, there was only one Kashmiri Pandit woman employed in the state. So saying that Kashmiri Pandits monopolized administrative services or postings, privileged postings, and this and that is actually factually wrong. And this confusion has come up in the leftist narrative, in the Marxist narrative, because it suits their narrative, because of this confusion that was in this one journal or one article or one research report by someone called Copeland, who was a Britisher, because he couldn't understand the ethnic division of the state, wherein there were Hindus who were Dogras, there were Hindus who were not Kashmiri Pandits also. And as we understand, on the moral ground, as we understand that there is a narrative, this binary of haves and have-nots fits so properly into the leftist narrative that they just jumped onto it. They realized that yes, they didn't go to so that's their is their intellectual dishonesty, their academic dishonesty. They did not dig enough to see that was the facts, or was the data good, or data was accurate enough, was there a problem in the data. So there is an intellect on the moral side, there is an intellectual dishonesty, and plus on the third side of it, ethically speaking, this falls into narrative. So obviously we all understand there is a bigger narrative war going on in the background, and as this fits into narrative, it was conveniently taken up and used to justify whatever, by whatever means, used to falsify the truth and justify the as if victim shaming. This is kind of a victim shaming, as if Kashmiri Pandits had it coming to them. And
Right.
so yeah, that's it. It's a
There
pure
is,
intellectual
there is,
dishonesty.
ईशान,
yeah, sorry, yeah.
yes,
Can I
सुरेंद्र, आप
just
आप
step
बोलिए.
in
हाँ
and
हाँ,
interrupt?
sure sure.
You know, that's right. What happened once the damage was done, then the machinery got activated because they saw that at international level, this will look so down. It will look so bad. We are very close to Azadi. We are very close to whatever it means. But now this whole thing is creating a problem with us globally. So what they came out with, that, oh, no, 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 no. We didn't tell them to leave. They left by themselves. And it was Jagmohan who told them to leave. This was another thing, as if Jagmohan has given, who is going to leave the property and everything, that you leave and you just do, you whether whatever slippers you get and you just leave. I mean to say, how the bankruptcy, the intellectual bankruptcy can happen to bring this argument. But there's a saying, when thousands and thousands of people speak the false things, people think that, oh, it may be true, because they were concocting stories, because Jagmohan had to kill us, he had to bomb us. So that's why he said, all Kashmiri Hindus, you leave so that I will take care of them. Wow. And then in an era where there are no phones, there are no cell phones, and how this messaging went so fast in a matter of days, that is really amazing. So such of things came up to cover up that we did this thing, and then we fell in trap on the same narrative, and we also started, oh yeah, maybe it's true. Jagmohan, him. So that was another angle, the denial. So I just wanted to add that.
ईशान और सुरेंद्र जी ने अभी जैसे नैरेटिव की बात की, तो ईशान, मेरा क्वेश्चन आपसे है, क्योंकि आप काम भी करते हैं पब्लिक पॉलिसी सेक्टर में. हम देखते हैं कि जो हिंदुस्तान के नामचीन यूनिवर्सिटी हैं, चाहे वो टिस हो, जाधवपुर हो या JNU हो, यहाँ पे जो ह्यूमैनिटीज़ के प्रोफेसर हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं जस्टिफाई करते हैं टेरर को जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के साथ में. जो सिविलियंस की किलिंग है, चाहे वो कश्मीरी मुस्लिम हो या कश्मीरी पंडित हो, उसको भी उसी में जस्टिफाई कर देते हैं. तो आप इस इवन नेक्सस को कैसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, एंड रीजन क्या है इसके पीछे?
So there are 2-3 sides of it. One side of it is obviously what is happening. Like, we talk of culture. When we talk of culture, we usually talk of culture in context of religion and ethnicity and all. Similarly, in these high-end Indian university and even abroad, there's a Marxist culture. There's a counter culture. In Russia they used to call it counter culture. So there's a culture wherein when you conform to a particular narrative, you are rewarded for that, right? There's a reward system. So it's not necessary that the reward would be financial or monetary or in position and all, but it's also a affirmation kind of. Okay, when you agree with this similar thing was happening in Kashmir also. People who were conformist, who were conforming to the idea of Azadi, the sense the Kashmiri radicals brought it. They were given affirmation in the society. They were respected. They were seen as more respected people in the society, and people who were non-conformist were targeted out like anything, right? So same thing is happening in these universities also. So that is the cultural side of it. Then obviously there are, when it's an echo chamber basically. When the culture becomes this thing, culture becomes a single narrative based on single narrative. There is no counter. So it becomes an echo chamber in which anyone who is not conforming to the basic broader narrative of that ecosystem is castigated out. So then there will never be a counter narrative, or say, as Marxists say, antithesis to what is happening right now. Plus, then there is the third side of it is the victimhood mentality, the maintenance of victimhood mentality. I know Amna understands this narrative very much. But the maintenance of victimhood mentality and the conflict economy that we talk of in Kashmir. So this conflict economy and the maintenance of victimhood mentality was also financially suitable for a lot of people who were involved in this conflict. Money was flowing. We all know money was not just flowing in the terms of armaments or training for the radicals, for the terrorists. Money was also flowing for intellectuals to set up a narrative, the same narrative which converts a murderous criminal terrorist like Yasin Malik, who not just killed Kashmiri Pandits or that army officer, but also was handy in kidnap of daughter of Home Minister of India. The same narrative saved him and converted it into a Gandhi, and he gets to meet the PM of the country. You understand? Someone who has kidnapped the daughter of Home Minister of India is not punished till date, and he gets to meet the PM of the same country. So this is how narrative. So money was not just flowing in terms of logistics. Money was also flowing in terms of intellectual narrative setting, which was, yesterday we talked, was happening even before 80s. It started happening in 70s itself. The narrative of otherization that started.
No, also I wanted to add to that, Amana, with the Marxist thought of those professors in JNU, in Jadavpur, and in TIS, right? What is interesting, that they share the same sentiments with any secessionist group in India who don't believe in the concept of nation states. So even in Hamid Dalwai's writings, you see that they have a common point. Right now, what happens to urban kids who are in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi? Popular culture is infested through these masters because they have the minds, right, in the university, the literature, the academia. And they put this very same things which are supposed to be shameful, where you're basically wanting to, kill all the security forces of India, kill everyone in the judiciary, break it up, turn it out very cool, right? Make those things very aspirational, have the secessionists and then say, see how the evil majority goes against them. Whereas they don't show, whether it's the army, whether it's the security force, you have people of all faiths. So it's a very sinister game, and very people live their entire lives without even decoding it, right? Because they get these binaries, evil, this. And I think that is also what has hit that industry, because the movie shows that also, that how it is an industry, and all those people, they earn out of that victimization. You look at a Rana Ayub, right? She feels nothing. As a human also, she's dead because she earns out of it, right? She calls it a movie which is against Muslims, which it is not, right? And she can't feel anything for the Hindus. But in that game, she knows she cannot, because now she has created all that. So which people understood all these things. So that is very important to understand why there is a confluence between these people and that. Because there is a confluence of the worldview. Both don't believe in nation states, right? But both will use all the fancy jargon to tell you, okay, and a nation state with 8 major world faiths is definitely one worth striving for and worth, saving for. Yeah,
Khalid, I want to add just 2 points to it. One point on the issue of the college students. So you would remember when you just passed your 12th standard and went to college, the kind of impressionable mind we all had at that time, and the urge to be to relate to something, to belong to something. So these people exploit that urge, the urge to simultaneously rebel, be unique, and still belong to something bigger than ourselves. These people manipulate that urge.
ओके मैं जो क्वेश्चन पूछने जा रही हूँ, प्लीज सुरेंद्र जी आप उसका आंसर दीजिए और नम्रता जी आप भी दीजिएगा। तो अब हम यहाँ तक पहुँच चुके हैं, हमने डिस्कस कर लिया कि किस तरह से केपीज के साथ जो हुआ था, अब वो दुनिया को मालूम पड़ चुका है। तो यहाँ से केपीज के लिए, जो यूथ है केपीज और कश्मीरी मुस्लिम, उनके लिए क्या मैसेज है आपका?
आमिना जी, बहुत अच्छा सवाल आपने किया। जैसे मैंने पहले कहा कि देखिए, एक ओनस होता है को एग्जिस्टेंस का मेजॉरिटीज पे। So majority has to do things, minorities can always interact. So, but having said that, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमको एजुकेट होना पड़ेगा कि क्या है, क्या हुआ है, क्योंकि अगर हिस्ट्री की जानकारी पूरी नहीं होगी तो उसका जो फ्यूचर है वो करेक्ट नहीं हो पाएगा. सो इफ यू हैव बायस, इफ यू हैव सम रॉन्ग परसेप्शंस, वो जब तक निकलेगा नहीं, क्योंकि यंगर जनरेशन को बताया गया है कि भाई जो कश्मीरी पंडित्स हैं दे आर विलन्स, वो आपकी जॉब ले लेंगे, वो आपका सब कुछ ले लेंगे. Let me tell you, the industry, the post, हमने research किया था 2 years, and we had done some research on lot of things. One was कि ये जो total net loss है, जो पूरा exodus genocide का हुआ है, जो encroachments हैं, जो आपके institutions हैं, इनको encroach किया है, जिनको जलाया गया है, vandalize किया गया, what is the cost of this whole thing? And we have calculations, and the whole thing costs around 35 billion US dollars. That is the amount. But what I'm trying to say is the message is that first understand with an open mind on a humanitarian level. जो आपके साथ जातियां हुई, देखिए पॉलिटिशियंस को हम थोड़ा दरकिनार कर दें कुछ टाइम के लिए, just leave them alone. At personal level, let understand your situation. Let's understand each other. Let's understand the gravity of the situation. And basically that is what reconciliation is. जब ये politicians आ जाते हैं, and because they are vocal and they speak, that has actually caused more damage to the reputation and image of Kashmiri Muslims, because that message is then kept with the whole community. Oh, this is sabhi aise hain. When they make some irresponsible statements, that goes and that generalizes things. And that is the big problem. Once these politicians keep their mouths shut, there will be a lot of progress. When they start parroting about all these venomous things, it's not going to stay like that, unless somebody confronts them. And I'm happy that I've seen a good number of youth coming from Kashmir. I saw hats off to them, who are demonstrating, no, why did you do this? They're questioning this. People like you, people like there are now, I think the tribe is increasing. I'm pretty sure once the right thing will go, that no, they were never your villains. They were never your this thing. They're always your well-wishers. I met the Prime Minister in 2019 in Houston. And what was my statement when you go on Google that? I said, we want Kashmir where the Kashmir is progressive and every benefits to every section of the people gets. Whether they have education, they have right for good medical care, employment, that is the issue. But we have certain issues. The biggest problems for our community is because it's a minuscule community. A rich civilization with 5,000 years of documented history is at the verge of extinction in the next 30 years. We will be just thinking that, oh, Kashmiri Pandit there was some person like Kashmiri Pandit, there was a tribe like Kashmiri Pandit. And if that becomes extinct, because we are all one. That's what I said in the beginning. We are all one. And if this community, if this civilization gets extinct, that will be the biggest shame on everyone, including but primary responsibility will be of Kashmiri Muslims. Let me be very clear on this. That has to come out. That thing has to come out. That empathy, that thing has to come out without any ambiguity.
Namrata, what about you?
Yeah, so my message for the youth born after the 90s, I don't know how much they have been told about KPs and what we went through. कुछ को शायद सच बताया गया होगा, कुछ को शायद partial truth पता होगा, कुछ को शायद बिल्कुल गलत बताया गया है. Because that's what I get to know when I interact with that age group, that they don't know the correct picture. They don't have the correct picture. So first of all, they all must watch this movie and get educated. They have to believe that this is the truth. So once they know, do not forget your past. All this happened in the past. We need not dwell in the past, but we must be aware what has happened in the past and learn from it. And then move towards the future. keeping the history in mind, let's together build a better future. And I don't want to sound this like, make it like a rhetoric or something, but the youth only can help us. So the KM youth, I would expect them to lead the way. Like Surinder ji say, it has to be from the KM side. So the youth who are more educated, aware, there is so much information available on the internet, they should get educated, they should know what had actually happened, what transpired in the last 30 years, and then work along with the KP youth. Let both the groups work together. Like right now, we all are working. We might not all be youth, but like Khalid, your Amana, Ieshan.
I'm still a youth. I'm still a youth. I'm still a youth.
So we can give you direction. We can tell you the truth. You have to have the faith in us that we'll not mislead you. Listen to your elders. And if you feel the elders are not giving you the correct picture, which does happen, I know, please correct them. Because abhi to aapke paas itna information hai. Hamare zamane mein there was no internet. We had to rely only on books or whatever somebody told us. तो अभी आप खुद पता करें, जाइए गूगल पे देखिए क्या हुआ था कश्मीर रैली में 1990 से लेके आज तक. ये मूवी भी जरूर देखिए. And then when you're aware, take your own decisions, use your own mind. I think that's the best thing to do. Do not get brainwashed. Do not listen to anybody जो भी आपको कुछ सुनाने की कोशिश कर रहा है. And please let us build a cohesive society. Please let us come together, the KP and KM youth, and work closely and get the KP community back into the valley. It's time, I just aspire for this one thing. The movie has been a success, it's been a hit, but I would say the closure would come only when justice has been served, when the perpetrators of the crime, they are taken to task, one that, and second, the entire community, KP community, is with respect taken back to the valley. And this can happen only when the youth lead the way, both KP and KM youth. So this is my request, my honest request to everyone who is listening, who's watching us, please work towards this consciously. We want more Khalids and more Amnas and more Ieshans and more Surinderjis also to lead the.
Khalid, like just
There
one
will
small
be.
point.
There will be.
So I just want to add small one point. So to put that in context, first of all, the historical narrative of the binary of KP versus KM has to be corrected. We have to instill in the mind of the coming generation that it is not a binary of us versus them there. We were all a community. As the KPs were made to exodus, it was not just a loss of Kashmiri Pandits. The habitat of Kashmiris, the Kashmir, it was a complete habitat destruction for everyone, be it Kashmiri Pandit, be it Kashmiri Muslim, be it Kashmiri Sikh. It was habitat loss for everyone, not just for Kashmiri Pandits. So that narrative of Kashmiri Pandits versus Kashmiri Muslim has to be corrected. That historical narrative has to be corrected. It has to be, that can be, in my mind, the start of things.
One more point I want to add कि आज की डेट में ना क्या होता है, even when I'm writing something, say a tweet, मेरे back of the mind I'm always thinking, what will my KM friends think of it? Will they judge me? I fear to express because I know I'll be judged. They will always see me through a particular colored glass, through some biased this thing. वो मैं चाहती हूँ कि नहीं हो. There has to be some openness. They should listen to voices. We should listen to each other's voices without any prejudice. Don't think we are always there to attack. If Namrata is a Hindu Pandit, she will always be against KMs and talking against us. She'll hold us guilty. ऐसा नहीं है. Nor should I feel कि अगर कोई KM कुछ express कर रहा है, there is so much happening in the valley. They're also going through a bad time. They've seen bad times in the last 30 years, just like we have. They've seen probably worse, I would say. So I should also listen to them openly, but without any prejudices, without judging. Even before I've spoken, I know I'll be judged. I'll be called names. तो उससे क्या होता है? Nobody's forthcoming then. I also hold myself back कि लिखूं नहीं, बताऊं, express करूं कि नहीं. So वो नहीं होना चाहिए. That's one thing.
So last
I'll
question.
give you one example that on a positive note you can, and in 2014 बाढ़ कब आई थी? 2014-2015 में बाढ़ आई थी कश्मीर में.
2014 winter. 2014 winter.
Yeah.
I was there in Kashmir. हाँ.
You were. ये हम लोग कहते हैं ना कि कश्मीरी पंडित आना ही नहीं चाहते. I was heading one of the organizations, social organizations, and basically We created a telemedicine क्योंकि अब बाढ़ आ गई है, अब there will be a catastrophic, बहुत illnesses होंगी and all that stuff. You know, despite what happened with us in Kashmir, we opened telemedicine units कि अगर किसी को कुछ जरूरत पड़े, at least for consultation, they can reach out to us. Because the whole healthcare system had collapsed because doctors themselves are trapped. So this is just an example I'm just giving you that, you know, we will always be well-wishers, always be well-wishers. And we expect the same. And I know that there are lots of well-wishers in KMs also. I can vouch for that. And I'll give another example. You know, in year 1990, I was 91, no, 93 actually, 92. I was taking an exam for my MSMD state exam, and I didn't have a certificate. There was one certificate that was needed that obviously we didn't get certificate from Kashmir when we left. Now, I'll tell you, I don't want to name and put him in an awkward situation, but it was a KM, my friend, who got the certificate and drove around from Srinagar to Jammu, handed over that certificate to me, and just went back. You know, there are instances like this also.
So many examples like that.
Right. So the question is that there are well-wishers, but I think the whole thing has been sabotaged, has been taken by selected those members who are in this factory, and we are letting them do whatever they have to do.
I'm gonna interject a little. Thank you, all of you. I mean, Surinder ji, it's been an honor to have you. The man who has set the world talking about the plight of Kashmir Pandits, and like the fact that you are so passionate about the two communities still coming back and for the betterment of Kashmir. So thank you. It's been an honor to have you. Similarly with you, Namrata, anybody who follows you on Twitter, you make so many visits in a year to Kashmir. It's your home. You should be staying there ideally. But the Srinagar girl, you put out these amazing photographs of the unseen places. We are so proud of you. And whenever I meet you, you shower so much of love, and so many Kashmiri Muslims have had, such warm stories to talk about you.
We are from the same stock, all of us.
Yeah.
We should not.
And Ieshan, thank you for such an analysis. Thank you so much. On that note, I would like to personally say that, with regards to the movie, when you want your truth to be heard by the world, you should have, the guts to listen to someone else's truth also, even if it hits your identity. And once you listen to that, then reconciliation can happen. If you don't want that, then it will never happen. And the onus is always on the majority, right? And in that case, you're the majority there. And that's my only thing. And I hope someday, at least in our future, it goes back to the syncretic place it was before 89. And, there were some 17 odd theaters. So, I mean, that's the kind of place today that not even one runs there. So, Amana, you want to say something about the movie? We're running short of time. You just have a minute and you can end it up.
या श्योरली बिकॉज क्योंकि मैं कश्मीर के बारे में बहुत कुछ सुनती आई हूँ आउट ऑफ कश्मीर रहते हुए, हमेशा न्यूज़ में रहता है कश्मीर, प्लस जिस इंडिया में मैं रहती हूँ यहाँ पे न्याय की परिकल्पना का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस है. इवन वी सी द न्यूज़ कि अगर किसी के साथ कास्ट के बेस पे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, अगर मुस्लिम्स को एक घर नहीं मिलता है तो उसके इतने बड़े न्यूज़ होते हैं. बट मुझे कश्मीरी पंडित के बारे में नहीं पता था, मतलब दिस इज़ वेरी सैड थिंग, मुझे नहीं पता था. इसमें मेरी गलती है या मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया की है? क्योंकि मैं तो शायद नहीं जानती बहुत कुछ हो रहा है वर्ल्ड में, ये मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया लग करके मुझे बताती है. सो जब मुझे पहली बार मालूम पड़ा था इस बारे में जब राहुल पंडिता जी की बुक आई थी आवर मून हैज अ ब्लड क्लॉट, तो थोड़ा आइडिया हुआ कि कुछ हुआ है वहाँ पे इस तरह से. देन जब फिर भी मैं आर्टिकल्स या चीज़ें पढ़ती थी, स्टिल ये आइडिया नहीं था. ये मूवी देखने के बाद जो मुझे रियलाइजेशन हुआ, आई मीन थ्रू द हाफ मूवी मैं रो ही रही थी. मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि कोई इंसान दूसरे इंसान के साथ ऐसा कैसे कर सकता है और इस हिंदुस्तान में उसकी बात क्यों नहीं हुई. सो दैट इज माय पॉइंट एंड एवरीबॉडी शुड वॉच दिस मूवी.